Tape Deck Media.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Now podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing. You know what? The 80s are almost a quarter of a century ago.
Don't you dare.
1980. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about that as we were listening to that awesome theme song about how Dan is from the 80s. And I was like, oh my God, it's 2024. It is a new year. Welcome to an all new episode of the Art of Bombing podcast. I am your host, Dan Bublitz Jr. And with me as always, my co-host, co-producer, and cohort, Mr. Josh Shirley.
That's me. And let me tell you about some tapes. So today I did a gig, and one of the talks that I do is about, it's got comedy involved. It's fun and all that, but it's also about like how we have sort of innate programming in us. And I talk about this hard code that's on people, and it governs how you think and act and how you feel. And whenever you're challenged or you're delighted in a certain way, like you have these kind of scripts that play. But I kept calling them tapes. I'm like, so you're playing the like clean your plate tape, or they always get it done tape, or I'm gonna winner tape. And then I was talking to a room full of like max age is like 29 in this room. Like the old guy, like managing everybody's like 28, 29 years old. So that means everybody's just like their parents dropped them off at this place,
and they're all like, "What's a tape?" They're like, they're on they're on their smartphone, their iPhone, Googling what is
what's a tape? Like what tapes are? Is it taped together? Like
what is a plate tape?
Like a tape. You put the tape. And I was like, and then I said, but Dan is from the 80s, and I left.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, it is a brand new year and brand new season of the podcast. We're back. Yes. Season 8, episode 295.
Get in there.
It is a great episode. We have a fantastic guest to kick off 2024. Gabby Gutierrez-Reed. I'm not very good at words. It's a tough one. Gutierrez. There we go. Gutierrez-Reed. She is a fantastic comedian, one of my favorite comedians in the Denver area. Love watching her perform live, and you'll know why once we get into this episode. But before we do that, how was your holiday, Josh? I had a great
on time, man. Saw a lot of my in-laws, and great times. We kind of do this. So Thanksgiving holiday is typically let's go to Texas and see my folks. Mm-hmm. Big road trip down there. And so I put my wife through like her in-law torture there. And then Christmas is her family, which is up here. And so we go and do that. Actually, the rest of my life is that. So she has to deal with her in-laws on Thanksgiving. I have to deal with my in-laws every other day of the year. So that's how it works. That's why it's fair. And that's why life's fair.
There you go. Got to keep it fair. You gotta have those compromises. Keep everything, tit for tat in the old relationship.
Keep it spinning, baby.
Yeah, I had a great holiday vacation. I was in Tennessee for a comedy festival during our break. That was fun. I had a good time at the Blue Ridge Comedy Festival. Got to perform on a bunch of spots. Met a bunch of comics, which had a good time out there. And then then my holiday was pretty low key. We didn't do a ton because if you listen to this show, you know that we did all of our holidays before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
because it just worked out for our family that we could do that. So we did that. Nice. So for the actual holiday of Christmas, we didn't do a whole lot. We just
sitting around in your long johns and just watching.
Yeah, watching movies, watching TV, catching up on stuff.
Just watching a movie. Like, it's a great time.
Yeah, it was great. I'd love it. That's my favorite thing to do is day drink and watch Christmas movies
On time.
on Christmas Day. That's my favorite. Although on Christmas Day, we did have to go to a family member's house for dinner. So I didn't get to do my day drink. I did it on Christmas Eve instead this year.
Okay. Well, as long as you got it in.
I still got it in. It was two traditions. So that was great. But all right, well, that's enough of us probably talking about our holidays. I know you guys probably want to get into this episode. I do want to bring up that in this episode, Gabby and I talk about a one-person show that we both thought was great, but could not remember. We thought it was great, but obviously not great enough that we remembered the name. And then a funny thing happened. This is how I remembered what the one-person show was. Is I was listening to another podcast, the Pen Pals podcast, a few weeks ago, and they were talking about it. I don't remember how it came up, but it came up, and they started talking about it. And because they're more professional than I am, they knew the name of it. So, and they probably have a producer behind the scenes Googling stuff and feeding it to them, but because they have a budget for their podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, it came up, and now I know what the name of the one-person show is. And I think if you love performance art and you love to laugh and you love to have your heartstrings pulled just a little bit, you should check this out. I don't know if it's still available. When I watched it, it was available on Hulu, and it's called Derek Delgadio's In and of Itself. And let me tell you, it is a pretty magical one-person show.
First McDonald's that ever opened up in America.
Whoa, what was that?
Yeah, so I was looking it up on Netflix, and you know how it like starts playing a video right when I was gonna be like, okay, guys, it's either on or it's not. Like somehow I changed the setting, like it usually comes on mute, and I was like, wasn't worried about it. But like this time, it's like, dude, you're doing a podcast. So
this is because we're from the 80s. We don't understand technology.
Yeah, so if you have the tape in and of itself, put that
throw it in your VCR
and watch it. Have a good time, guys. You can probably find it at a nearby Blockbuster or Hastings. Enjoy.
Family video. All right, well, that's good. Let's get into this conversation. We've caught up. We hope you guys had a great New Year. We hope you guys have a good New Year. Probably in the next upcoming episodes, we'll probably start talking about goals. We might even do a special between bombs just on goals and goal tracking, as we usually do. That's not related to any of the episodes. So hopefully you're getting your goals all written out and ready for 2024. So let's kick some butt. And here is our conversation with Gabby. Enjoy.
And now it's time for the stand-up soundbite.
God, I am Mexican, and I don't know. It's weird. Like I don't always feel Mexican on the inside. Like I don't speak Spanish very well, and I never had a quinceañera. But there's one thing that will bring my Mexican side out, and that's ghost stories. Anytime the switch just flips. And these kids were telling me ghost stories the other day, and they were like, Miss, there was a knock at the door, and then we opened the door, and nobody was there, and a gust of cold wind came through the house, and a chill went down our spines. And I'm in the corner like, ay, Dios mío, mujeres muertas. ¿Dónde está el baño? I don't speak that much Spanish.
It's the art of bombing.
Is that pretty cheap too?
Yeah, that was like $50 or something like that.
I feel like every comedy venue show should have one of those.
I do.
That's really cool.
That one is a spare. Well, I bought that originally and then I broke it. I don't know if you can see it from here, but there's a little piece of tape covering it.
Yes,
it got broke.
yes, I see it.
So I bought a new one that I use at shows, but I use that at my shows
That's
too.
great.
Yeah,
it's so much easier to like literally keep the perfect amount of time when you're just looking and you're like, oh, I have 1 minute. I shouldn't even tell a full joke.
Yeah, exactly. And usually I set it for whatever the time the comedians are doing because it goes down. It can count down too. So usually I count down. So it'll start at 15 and then count down. So the comics know exactly how many minutes left they have. So they don't have to like do the math or any of
Sure.
that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're very handy, and I agree. Every comedy place should have those.
Yeah. That's why
And you
I
wouldn't have to worry about somebody doing the light either. That's the other thing that's nice about it.
No, it's true. Like, you know that they see what time it is, and I guess if they're not paying attention, whatever. But,
Yeah.
you know, like, you did your time, and running the light is, like, usually not good. So,
No, exactly.
So it's nice if you're like, I know what time I did. You know what time I did. Yeah.
It's all right there. Yeah. That's a good way to do it. Now, you said last night you had a show last night. Where were you at last night?
Yeah, I did the Bobcat Lounge.
Oh, that's a fun. I haven't done it, but it's
Yeah.
it's a fun venue.
I love that space.
It's a cool
I
space.
did it for High Plains, not this most recent one, but the one before, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I was in there. I was a stage manager at the Bobcat for High Plains this last
Yeah.
year for one of the nights, and yeah, it was a cool venue.
It's great. It's like it's meant for entertainment. So
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. How was the show then?
It was good.
Good? That's good. Good
newer
turnout?
Producer. Yeah, it was pretty good. I don't know if it was like 35 or something, but honestly,
For that room, that's
30's
pretty
a
good.
great crowd.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
That's definitely enough to have a great show. I mean, 15's enough.
Mhm.
10 is enough. Like,
Well, yeah.
as long as everyone's having fun, but yeah.
And that's very true. Yeah, that's a good perspective, because it's easy for and you see it a lot with comedy that will like, oh, it's a small audience, and we'll get all like frustrated and not want to not perform our best.
Oh,
but,
sure.
You know.
I think if I was guaranteed pay, and that is not going to change, I really just try to have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel bad when like a producer is like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, we had more last month, and I'm just always like, I promise you it's going to be great, and it's all going to be fun. Like, just have fun. But as a producer, I've like totally been there where I'm like, everything has to be perfect.
Oh yeah, yep, yeah, and then it's when you're the producer and host too. You get that added stress because you're like in producer mode, and you got to try to do comedy too, but you're stressing out about all the producer things because they're gonna be a crowd.
You want to be fun. You want to be like, hey guys, what's up? We're gonna have a great time, and I'm just chilling with my buds. But no, you're thinking about like that one person that's like already too drunk, and you're like, I have to watch them.
Yep. Saw them come in, and you're just like, oh, they're gonna be trouble.
Yeah, or like when we would do Hooked on. Actually, nobody ever got too drunk at Hooked on Colfax, but they would have a great bottle of wine deal, like a $15 bottle of wine.
Oh wow,
it was like pretty good.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, and they would just have that special, and there'd be like 2 people with it, but I'm like, I'm sure one of you is gonna really dominate this. Like, there'd be people that were like a little
like, just save the glass. I don't need that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna drink it right out of the bottle.
Yeah, there was one person that got a bottle for themselves, and they're like, I'm gonna save it for later, and it's like, no, you're not. You're gonna drink all of it.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a great night.
That's awesome. How long have you been producing shows in the Denver area?
Producing, like, I would say actually doing it was when I met Salma Zaki. We ran a show called Tell Me I'm Pretty in the basement of Hooked on Colfax, and I truly am so bad with time. I feel like I repress memories daily. I'm really bad at like, I have like core memories, and I'm trying to be better at writing down in my journal like good moments where I'm like, I do have a nice life. But maybe that was in like 2019 or 18 when we started that show. It was whenever she moved here because we immediately became friends. I saw her and was like, she's really funny. I need to be her friend. And then we like met at an open mic, and I was like, you were so funny. And she's like, you were funny. Do you want to run a show together? I was like, so out of nowhere. And I was like, I could tell she was good vibes. So that was maybe 2018 or 19.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard, I haven't been here very long in this area, but I've heard good things about your guys' shows, and all the pictures, they look like they were a lot of fun and stuff.
Oh, thank you.
That's always good.
Those were all like in the past year, really.
Oh, really? Wow.
That was like me, Kate, and Salma getting together. That was more recent. And yeah, such great people to work with. And it's fun producing shows, but it's also like, how do we get everyone that we want to be on the shows? And everyone's schedules are different, and you want it to be balanced lineup. And but it was always so fun.
Yeah. And it definitely helps when you're doing it with other people too.
Yeah.
Like having other people producing with you and hosting, because you can like, you know, divide up all the duties, and then you also have more people to help promote it too, which is
It's true.
always good.
Yeah, everyone has like different friends that come.
Yeah.
I think every show, like some of our friends would come, and then some people would return, which is like the best compliment.
Oh, absolutely.
And it'd be like 50% people that returned, and then like 50% new people. And like that's such a great feeling where you're like, they wanted to come back and they had like a good night. They felt like going out that night was worth it for them, that they actually came back.
Yeah, which is great. You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's like the best compliment. Because in comedy too, it seems like, you know, and I don't know if it's still true now, because comedy's really like kind of on fire right now. There's a lot of, you know, a lot of people are wanting to go out and go to comedy, which is great for us. But there used to be a time where it was like a person might go to one comedy show their entire life, you know?
Yeah, and they'd be like, I am good.
Yeah.
Actually, that was...
After that, I will never come back again.
Yeah. Music is like, I feel like people will always be so invested in that.
Yeah.
Because you can express yourself in so many ways when watching music. You can dance, you can just watch and like appreciate, you can cry, you can laugh. No.
Yeah.
But comedy, it's like you're laughing.
Yep.
You went there to laugh.
And you have to be vested. You have to be an active participant, in, you know, because you have to actively be listening. Like you said, with music, you can just be having a conversation with your friends and still enjoy music.
Totally,
You know, in the
yes.
background.
Yeah.
You don't have to be concentrating on it like you do with comedy. And, you know, like you said, people will go to music over and over again and listen to the same songs. Comedy's not like that. I just saw people on TikTok here the other day. It might have even been this morning. People are already complaining about the Matt Rife comedy special that came out on Netflix about, you know, saying it wasn't that great, but then also saying like, oh man, I paid $100 to see what everybody gets to see now on Netflix, you know, because his tickets, were like, you know, pretty expensive or whatever.
Whoa.
And people are already like, I could have, you know, and that just goes to show you, like, with comedy, I know it is such a bummer, but
I bet he's a great comedian. Like,
oh, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's fine.
Like
to me, it's funny that that's the mindset though with comedy, is that, oh, I already saw that. Why would I want to see it again? You know what I mean?
That is disappointing. I don't think all comedy fans are like that.
No,
I think
that's
a lot of people got into comedy because of Reels
mm-hmm.
and TikTok, and that's their experience with it, and you notice it, like people expect more crowd work.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I've tried to dip my toe in so that, and yeah, some shows like the crowd work that I do is, even if it's built into my set, it's the most fun they're having, and I'm like, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's part of creating an experience.
All right.
When you're doing that.
Yeah, but I have the most fun when I'm like, I worked on these jokes and I get to show my like silly personality and do my act outs and everything. Like those are my favorite shows, but it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different landscape for sure. And I bet he does write good jokes. And I don't know, I haven't watched it yet. But...
I haven't watched it either. And and it wasn't even them like trash talking him. That wasn't my point. My point was how they were complaining about getting to see it live and paying all that money.
Watch it on Netflix?
Yeah, that's where I was like,
those people are stupid then, because that's the whole point, is you get to see them and be there live and experience it with them. And if they think that they could just like, oh, I should have just watched it on Netflix, then you don't like live
absolutely.
comedy.
And live comedy's a lot different too. Mm-hmm. Even if you like, I've been to a few tapings. And it was interesting to watch the live taping and then watch the final product, because even from that to the, you know, final version, they do editing and change it up, and there's, you know, cut things out, so it's not the same as what people, you know, what the people in the audience saw.
Right. I have a friend that goes to a lot of live tapings, and I'm like, that is so cool. It's like in New York and LA a lot, and I really like the comedian John Early. I don't know if you've heard of him or know of him.
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, but his special on HBO, I was like, gosh, I would have loved to like go to that live taping, because he's so silly and like pops into characters, or like, yeah. there's some stuff that you wish you were there live.
Oh, absolutely.
It's more special.
I think so. I mean, I went to. I don't think I've been. I mean, more. I guess it would be more independent comics for their tapings. But I did go to not his last, but the special he released before Jim Gaffigan's taping because he taped it in Minneapolis, and I just happened to go on one of the shows that they announced was that they were going to be doing the taping that night. I didn't know that when I got tickets, but it just happened to work out that they were taping those shows, and it was a lot of fun. It was cool to see what he was working on. And then when it came out to watch the special and kind of see, oh, this is not, it's the same what I saw, but it's still a little different because of the, editing and stuff like that.
Yeah, they do like cut in certain spots, and there is someone directing it. Mm-hmm. They're the director. There's an editor. He maybe approves it. I don't know how that.
Yeah, I suppose it just depends on. Yeah.
And you just never know.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, regardless. And going to those things, like you said, and even just live comedy in general. I know as comedians, we see so much comedy. It's sometimes it's like, I don't want to go watch more comedy. Yeah. But I personally, I enjoy it if it's a fun comedian, especially bigger like theater shows and stuff like that. Yeah, always a good time.
That's cool. I haven't been to a lot, but I have like seen comedians that I really like and look up to, and I'll go out for that. And then I also, when I'm on a show, it's sometimes you're like, gosh, I don't want to watch comedy right now, but then you start listening to your friend and you're like, oh, that's a new joke, like. That's awesome.
Catches
and then you're like
interest.
having fun, and you're like, oh, let me just like watch their whole set, and then you end up having fun.
Yep.
But it is that like aversion.
Yeah, I even have that at
like
home.
Embedded.
Friends will be like, because they know I'm a comedian that aren't necessarily comedians, and even friends who are comedians will be like, oh, did you watch so-and-so's new special? And I'm like, no, because that feels like work.
It does. Because
if I'm sitting at home watching stand-up, I feel like I'm still working.
Yeah. Inevitably, you're going to analyze the special. You're going to think about their jokes. You're going to predict a punchline, and you're going to not predict a lot, but like that is the experience of watching comedy as a comedian.
It is, absolutely.
And I think like some of our favorite comedians, at least in my experience, they're the people that I'm not like thinking as much about because they're like they're just so silly, they make me laugh or whatever. But
yeah, I could see that. Yeah, if you have like a different respect for them, where it's easier to like become a fan versus just a colleague per se. But yeah, but I don't know how it is for you, but for me, it's like far and few. There's only a few comedians that I can like sit and just watch and enjoy without going into the comedian brain of, like you said, analyzing everything, watching their act out, seeing how they're moving, wondering why they went this direction, like all the things.
Occasionally there'll be like a more one-person show type thing on Netflix or Hulu, and I really enjoy those because it is comedy. Like if it's a comedy one-person show, like there's this one called Nate. It's on Netflix and it's Natalie Palamides, and I've since learned that she's more into the clowning community, and I might not be correct because I don't really know her, but I enjoyed her special because it was like her as this character, and I really like dove into whatever what are words into like some interesting topics, and it was all like just ridiculous, and it wasn't stand-up, so I wasn't thinking about like what the next punchline was going to be, but it was still comedy, and I was like, wow, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, and those, you're right on that too. A lot of like one-person shows do like have the humor in there, and it's almost more like watching a hybrid of a play in a stand-up special.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it, but I think one of the best specials I've ever seen, period, hands down, was a one-person show, and now I can't remember the person's name, but it was just amazing. It was on Hulu, and another comedian was like, oh, you should watch this is probably going to be the best special you'll ever see.
Whoa.
And it was amazing. I'll have to look back.
Was it
and
a magician?
Because
I've seen a magician one.
I don't know that he was a magician, but he was kind of like a mentalist kind of.
I wonder if I watched that one.
It was like where he was like predicting things from the audience.
I think I watched that one.
And I mean, it was just
really good.
mind blowing how
And you're
how
right.
spot on
When
it
it's
was.
not like a stand-up comedian or a comedian, sometimes you just don't remember their name. But
yeah, exactly.
you're like, it's not gonna stick with me.
I was like, maybe it was a magician. Now that I think about it,
or I think like
or-
the things that he does kind of goes, because like mentalist does kind of like do magic with your mind.
yeah,
But maybe that's
exactly.
why I was like, he's a magician in my head.
Yeah, or you're probably talking about the same special then, but still, I
Yeah.
was like, man, that was like one of the most amazing specials.
It was really
Because even
cool.
because of the writing and stuff too. Now that I think about it, I think you're right. It was a magician because it like talked about him. You know, it was all about him becoming a magician
And his family,
or what, and
kind
his
of.
family. Yes.
Yeah, and he was like having people think things, and then he would. Yeah,
Yep.
that's so funny.
That's
that
exactly
we both
the
don't
one.
remember.
Yeah.
The name of the special or the person.
But we can both say that it was one of the best specials.
Yeah, maybe whenever you release this, someone will be like, "I know the name. I know the special."
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm sure the comic, I don't know if he still listens to the pod, or if he listens to the podcast, but the comedian that pointed me, showed me that probably will remember.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that pointed it out.
Yeah. Wow.
That's funny. Well, let's get into, we're talking about live shows and live comedy. And we all know that sometimes it doesn't go as planned or it's not as fun. And yeah, I'd love to hear a story of a time that you bombed or your show was a terrible show.
Sure. I was kind of, I just like let the first memory come back to me. And it's funny because a lot of people will be like, Comedy Works, it's the easiest stage, blah, blah, blah. I don't bomb there now. I have fun sets, pretty good sets now. But when I was newer, I definitely like would try shit. And it was just like stupid, like you don't
experiment.
Some people, they like show up and like do the jokes that they should do. But I remember, like this night, my dog had died like the week before, and then I was working on this like weird joke. I don't know if it was weird. It was just probably a bad joke, but
we've all written those.
Yeah. I like had talked about my dog dying at an open mic, and I actually won like the best set of the night because I was just like being honest and talking about it, and I was like, wow, this like maybe could be a joke. And then I like got onto Comedy Works that Tuesday, so it's probably like Thursday to Tuesday. I was like, I'm gonna try that, and that went okay, but it wasn't great at Comedy Works. And then I did this joke that I was doing about seeing a dead dick, and I remember it because I like also was in school at the time, and I went to this university to look. We looked at what are they called when they're dead bodies? But it's for science,
like cadavers.
Yes,
or
cadavers. Thank you. We were looking at cadavers, dead bodies for science, and they were showing a woman's body and a man's body, and that I had to see a dead penis, and I was like, whoa, that's a dead dick. And so I like kind of,
I mean, in theory, the concept of that is pretty funny.
I think maybe if I tried to write about that now, it might be funny, but like when I was so new, it was just dumb. And I was talking about like cops having to see dead bodies or something, or somebody, and then I was like talking about like what they say, and then like them being like, another day, another donut, another dead dick. And that was like, what a
so
stupid thing to talk about it. Comedy Works, it not being a fully worked out joke. And I'm pretty sure I bombed that night. I'm pretty certain it was bad. And it's bad that it was at a good comedy club, because you're like, I shouldn't be bombing here. I should
I should be trying. Putting a little effort into it.
I was trying. I just was like taking a risk. And then I remember in the notes, because they give notes there, Deacon Gray was still alive, and he was giving notes, and to everybody, the entire green room, he was like, that was a really weird night, you guys. Like, everybody did jokes that were not there. And it was like, I guess not just me, but sometimes those like new talent night is like that, where everybody on the show is like trying something new.
Yep.
And that's why I think they really emphasize now, like, do not do that, especially if you're a newer comedian. Like when you're an older comedian, yeah, you might like throw in a new joke and they're not going to judge you as harshly for it.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah. David, because I one of the last times I was there, and it's been a minute, but the note that I got was to actually, if I'm not at the beginning of the show, if they put you up more towards the end of the show, you've got more liberty to do
I was on that night with you. I remember that.
Yeah,
in the notes. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, if you're coming up later in the show, you have more liberty to mess around. Yeah. Obviously, if you're at the beginning, we want to start the show out hot and do your best. But if you're later, and then that's good to know, because that's one of those things too you don't think about. Like you go right into the mind of, like I said, you want to do your best you can because you're at this comedy club and you want to impress everybody, so you try to do that, and then you don't take risks. So I think it's great that you were willing to take risks, because it's so easy. Well, it's so easy to like get caught up in that, and then you get stuck in a loop where you're doing the same jokes because you're like, well, I want to try something new here, and then you just end up doing the same stuff over and over again, which you got to get it polished, but at some point it's going to be polished, and you don't need to keep doing it over and over at like a open mic.
Yeah, I think I'm better at calculating those risks now, where I'm like, okay, this is the show where I'm going to put a newer joke in between these two not new jokes that usually do really well. So it's like, even if it didn't go well, the next joke is going to have a great laugh. And if it does, then awesome. Then
you just get more laughs.
Yeah.
Which is the end game, right?
Yeah. You want to be crushing. So that was, a night that I remember feeling really, really bad afterwards.
Now I'm curious. I have a couple follow-ups on this. First, what'd you go to school for that you had to go look at dead bodies?
I went to culinary school and then got a culinary nutrition degree as like my bachelor's degree. And I used to be really into cooking. My first job was being a babysitter at a gym. So I would like watch people's kids, and I was like 15 or something. And then at 16, I worked at a pretzel shop that was run by a Frenchman, and he's so sweet. Sometimes we still talk. His name's Mark, and he showed me a lot about cooking. He would make fresh pretzel dough, and I would cut it, roll it out, twist it, bake it. I'd make paninis, and then we had like regular stuff like nachos or whatever. But he taught me a lot about cooking, and I didn't get into regular college because I just applied to one because I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know that you needed
you had to
try harder.
You have to have several options.
Yeah, like I did the SATs, but I didn't study for them. I had a lot going on in my life, and I didn't know like
no judgment here.
I didn't college was.
I didn't go to college until like 5 years ago. So
yeah, awesome. I think
so. Yeah,
I don't even think we need it. Like
I joke about it because a joke that a lot of people will drop out of college to pursue comedy. Comedy's what got me to go back to college.
You're like, damn, the money. It's always hard to make money.
I better go get a backup plan.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even use my college degree, but it was for an anatomy class.
Oh, okay. That's why I was like, well, I'm still not sure what the correlation is.
Yeah.
You went to school for culinary dieting, and now you're looking at dead bodies? What?
I was like Hannibal. I would sizzle up little brains. No.
I was waiting for you to... Oh, that'd be terrible. I thought you were going to say you were like going for like forensic science or something, or something like that.
No.
But
I think I would be interested in that for a little bit, but then I would be like, I'm not gonna do this for the rest of my life. But yeah, no, I'm like a jack of all trades, master of none kind of person.
I feel you.
I've definitely been interested in forensic sciences, but the anatomy, that day was cool. I'm not like, that stuff doesn't make me queasy. I was like, I will go on this trip. This is very cool. And we went to like Arapahoe Community College or something in Littleton, and they had like legit a woman who still had her hair on her head. It's wild that like hair like stays. And I think she had pubic hair also. Sorry if you're listening at work. That stays if you're embalmed. And then the guy, there was a man next to her, and they were like also showing us their brains.
Oh, wow.
And the person that was talking about them was like, she, stayed sharp, maybe she like read a lot, did like things to make her brain stay in practice.
Yeah.
Because she had a lot of the wrinkles still, and the guy's brain was quite smooth. Maybe maybe he had dementia or like was an alcoholic or something. And they were like comparing that.
Well,
and
that's
it is
interesting. That's
wild.
very interesting part of it.
Yeah.
Although for me though, dead bodies give me the EBGBs. I don't even like going to like funerals. It's so uncomfortable to me to be around any dead bodies.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Part of life, Dan.
I know it is, but it's a weird thing. That's like one of the things that's been the weirdest to me, like my entire life. Anytime I go to a funeral and it's like open casket, I'm just like, I don't want to walk up there. But
It is tough. It's hard.
but that's part of it.
Yeah, I've been to an open casket, and my friend was pretty young when he passed away, and it was weird walking up to him and seeing like the makeup, and he's in a suit, and you're like, damn.
Yeah. Well, and I had an experience when I was a kid. My friend's grandfather died, and I freaked myself out so bad that like when we went up to the casket, it looked like he moved. And ever since then, I've been like, and it was probably all in my head. Like I totally imagined it, but because of that, I'm just like,
But he turned his head and wink.
Yeah, right.
This one's for you, Dan.
Joke's on you. Now you're going to be traumatized.
Whoa. Do you think there's zombies? Do you believe it now?
I mean, I haven't seen one yet, but I'm not, weighing it out there with the way our science is.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? There's aliens, apparently. That's fun. That's fun to talk about. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things out there that are unexplainable. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by some of these things.
Sure, yeah.
I also think it's, well, not so much as, zombies, but like with aliens and other life forms, I think it's pretty arrogant of us as humans to think we're the only beings in the world.
Oh,
too.
sure.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like that's like a pretty arrogant take where like there's no way there could be any other life form in the galaxy
in a similar way.
Yep.
That is. Did you see that they found like on a
Heard that's
I was like, interesting. Huh?
Yeah.
I don't really know what to think of that, but whatever.
I'm just like, well, I'm just keep living one day at a time.
Keep living and wait for those ships to come down, and hopefully I'm good.
Right? Hopefully I'm one that they keep.
Yeah, maybe they'll like me for whatever reason.
And then I was going to ask you too, with kind of going back to you as a comedian, because I've seen you perform live. You're very funny. You're very physical. You do a lot of act outs and things like that. Do you have like a background in theater or improv or?
I do in improv. I wanted to do theater, but I kind of chickened out. They were like, you'll have to make up a lot of work for it. Because it was like later in high school. But
okay.
So I was kind of like, oh no, like I don't know if I can stay till 10 o'clock at night at school and do all that stuff. Because it was a pretty serious theater program. So what's funny is like I wanted to be a theater kid, but I don't think I am fully at heart a theater kid. I'm like half in, half out.
You weren't that dedicated.
Yeah. But I do get along with theater people, but sometimes I'm like, okay, that's enough,
You're like, cool it.
Yeah.
Take a step down.
I'm a Libra. I'm kind of like,
me too.
I'm really bad at making decisions. Yeah.
What's your
Libras?
birthday?
October 13th.
Oh, 2 days after mine.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
Whoa,
the 11th.
11th? That's wild.
Yep.
Yeah, so you understand the like indecisiveness,
Yep.
but I did improv and that was really fun. But same deal. Sometimes you're like, all right, stop chanting. Stop being so supportive.
Yeah, right. It's weird.
Yeah, but no, improv is great. I miss it sometimes, and it is like, I think it just depends on the person and your personality, but I am a very physical, silly person. I love to move. I love to dance. That's just who I am. And I love to mimic people and make characters and do voices and
Yeah, and it shows. It shows when you're performing. Like I say, and you stand out as a performer because of that. Like,
Oh,
that's
thank you.
one of those things that.
or hopefully in a good way.
Oh,
And you stand
absolutely,
out,
absolutely.
'cause
You stand
you're
out.
bombing all the time.
Whatever.
And,
no,
I'm just
that's-
kidding.
That's not true. I've never seen you bomb.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting because I sometimes wish I did just stand there and tell jokes. But it's not who I am. So I'm not funny when I do that.
I think people who move around more they're more interesting to watch because they're moving around, and it's a better way to keep people's attention. I think it's easier. Like I move around a little bit, not nearly as like what you do, or, I'm not a physical comic by any means. I might, turn and kind of maybe move around a little bit, but I'm always like, man, this crowd could easily just tune out because I'm just standing here telling jokes,
sure.
But when a comic's like moving around, you gotta like, what are they up to?
Yeah, I think it can go either way. Like sometimes people love me and it's awesome and I feel on top of the world. I think every comedian has those experiences. And they're like, wow, you're so fun. And they like literally are like, come sit with us. Like last night, these ladies were like, sit with us. And I was like, okay. And then the crowd laughed as I was leaving the stage. But because I will just like go hang out with people. I really have fun doing that. But sometimes people don't know what to do with me. And they are like, what the fuck is like not into it, or they just want to watch someone talk.
Somebody
and
just talk. Yeah.
It is like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like, I don't want to concentrate on you moving and talking and doing all these things. But I'm always trying to become a better comic, to be myself, but also be as accessible to as many crowds as possible. So it's like, I never want to fully blame a crowd. Yeah, sometimes there's nights where people suck and they're just not cool, but mostly I think it's both. It's like the energy you bring to the stage and how you're presenting yourself, but also, yeah, they have to meet you halfway, and if they don't really like physical comedy, that's just how the night went.
Yeah. Well, and that's going to happen. I mean, there's so many different personal preferences.
Yeah.
Like you said, what I might like for comedy, you might not like, and vice versa. And that goes with like all audiences too. They have a particular kind of stand up or comedy that they enjoy, and other kinds that they, just not going to be for them. We'll never be everybody's cup of tea in the night, but we just got to concentrate on the people who do like us,
Yeah.
which is easier said than done.
I do try to think like I'm slowly but surely building a fan base. One audience member at a time.
Well, yeah, that's good. That's what we want. We're all trying to do that. Some are better at it than others, especially if they figure out the masteries of social media.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think some of it is luck, but some of it is like hard work and dedication and skill. Like, yeah, you might have something pop off and then decide, do you want to keep going and trying to like put out that content so that it's like a sustainable thing, or do you kind of just want to let it be up to chance? It's all a little bit up to chance, but yeah, there's so many different like things
really
to talk
is.
about
I
that,
know.
like whether it's like you doing the same thing over and over again, or like being a great writer, but I do think it takes hard work no matter what.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, to put out a video every week, every 2 or 3 days, some people are doing.
Some people are doing it daily, 2 or 3 times a day, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know. I can't do that. I don't have the.
Yeah.
I don't have the. I'll admit, I'm like, I could probably do better on social media, but I'm too lazy to do better on social media.
Well, I
I'm
think
like,
it's
that's me.
You put your energy where you want to put your energy.
Yep.
And like, hopefully it goes somewhere. And some people's brains just like can work better with that outlet.
Yep.
And I think that's really cool that it is a way for to kind of people to skip The gatekeepers. I don't
Yeah.
really even like that word. I think you can create your own path. Sure,
I agree,
there's people
100%.
but I don't think there's people being like, you can't, especially at this day and age. Maybe like earlier on when somebody could really be like, don't work with that lady, and then you're like screwed, and maybe you keep going. But now it's like you can do so many different things.
Mm-hmm. No, that's that's what's great. That's one of the positives with social media too, is that like if you really want to lean into it, you really can, and you can go wherever you want with that, because it's a lot easier to build and find a fan base.
Yeah.
It makes you and your comedy more accessible to the masses, which is great. Versus, hoping like, somebody will sign up for an email list after a show.
Yeah. Or like the perfect person will see you and they're like, I'm going to take you to the top. Which not very common.
Actually, it's pretty common. They're just not as powerful as they say.
Oh, right. There's that too. It's like you can't always, yeah.
I had it was funny because I knew right away that they weren't anybody important because I was performing in a dive bar in San Diego, but they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm a booker for the Jay Leno show, the Tonight Show. You were so funny. We're gonna, we'll fly you out. We'll send a chopper down to get you and bring you up and all this stuff." And
Mr.
I'm like,
President,
"Oh, I'm just like, oh, cool. Where's your card?" And he's like, "Oh, I ain't got a card. Here, let me put he wrote his number down on a napkin." I'm like, "Yeah, okay."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you're definitely flying me to LA in a chopper.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
It was pretty funny though.
There are those people too that are just like want to be important or sound important, and then after a certain point sometimes you tune out and you're like, I don't have any hope left. There's
just
like
gonna keep
small
doing
things.
the things.
Yeah, it's like managers are interested. Why won't you sign me? Like, it's whatever. But I'm trying to think if I've had
I've had that experience. Somebody come up after the show. Let me tell you what I can do for your career.
Had lots of drunk ladies and really creepy men, but
not surprised. By that. Yeah, it's wild how how people can be after a show as far as like that stuff, like trying to be important. It's just so funny to me.
But it's like, what do you want to put your energy into? And maybe at some point I will try to put out weekly videos, but I really enjoy sometimes making a stand-up clip, but writing sketches and then like putting the work into making it look good. And
is that kind of where you focus? Or are you more trying to do more like with sketches and sketch comedy?
When
it comes to the
like online content, because I definitely prioritize live stand-up and keeping that skill sharp and trying to get better and better and better, and being the best that I can be in what I do. But yeah, on social media, I think I feel the most joy like posting a sketch rather than a stand-up clip, because stand-up I'm like, like this is a joke that I really like, but if people don't like it, that's totally fine. But if a sketch, like I put a lot of hard work into it and it's important to me, and usually people are like, this is so silly, and I hope that they enjoy it, but I just like making it, and I like acting, and I like thinking about everything that leads to the next event in the sketch. So
so when you're doing doing sketches, do you work with other people, or I was gonna say, or do you do a lot of the filming and editing yourself, or
it's both. I work with other people. I have a sketch group, so I work with like main people and we write stuff together, and we also work on longer projects. But I will have like an idea. A lot of times I'm a great premise person, and I think that's sometimes where my issues lie in my stand-up, because it's like, I got this great premise. I got to figure out how to make it funny in this realm. But with sketch, I like feel more empowered to like actually write it out now, because when I was younger I was like, how do I even like do this? But you really can just like have your premise and then like sit down and think about it. But a lot of times I'm like driving or I'm in the shower and I'm like, that's how it's supposed to end.
Those are the best moments, like when you're just doing something random and then it just like pops in your head. You're like, that's the piece I was missing, or that's the direction it needs to go.
Yeah, that happens. But sometimes I will have specific people in mind and I'm like, okay, I'm going to call Patrick or Michael today. And I'm going to be like, what do you think of this? And then you like kind of go back and forth. And it's like, oh, that would be funny. Oh, it'd be funny if like this happened after that. And then you like eventually have a layout and then write it out. And then also when you're filming, you just improvise. And sometimes that's the like funniest part. And that's what I love so much, just like hanging out with my friends and making something ridiculous. That's what I want to be doing more of.
Yeah, I mean, don't we all? I mean, that sounds like a good time for sure. Yeah, I've tried to do sketch a little bit. It is fun. I just I don't know what it is. I think for me, I used to do filmmaking before I got into stand up. And not like anything fancy, just independent filmmaking with friends, pretty much doing, essentially sketches.
Yeah.
But it got discouraging because like, I was like, I'm serious. I want to do this. And everybody else is like, yeah, are we really filming something or are we just hanging out? And I'm just like, this is so much collaboration. But if you got a good core group that are all like in, serious about it, I'm sure it's a lot easier too to like accomplish the goals and you know, film the sketches and get them actually produced and finished.
True. Yeah, I think there's like that aspect, and then realizing that if you have an idea and you want it to happen, a lot of that responsibility is on you. And I had to realize that, and if you need help, then you like get that person who's gonna like film that day, and then really like make it clear like this is your responsibility, and then like we can both direct, or you're directing this and that's your title, and like you are proud of that, like because some people it's like, well, if that's what I'm doing, then like I'm doing that and I'm owning that, and you have to be okay with like that person having that what is the word I'm looking for, responsibility, but also like giving them credit for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And but you have to be like, I'm gonna get the props, I'm gonna get food if like I'm a nice person for like them showing up and doing this for free.
If I'm a nice person, depends on the day. Some days not so much.
Sometimes I'm like, fuck you guys.
Just film my sketch, all right?
You're working for me, and I'm not making any money.
So why should you?
Yeah, but like really taking responsibility for like your idea and writing it out, and then like showing up and being like, we're doing this, you're doing that. Let me know if you have questions. Let's do this.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm curious about this because you do sketch writing and stuff too. What's your writing process like? What, like for you, I mean, maybe even, you could go into talking about writing a sketch, but like with stand up, what's the evolution for a joke? You have an idea and then it goes into the final act.
Yeah, with stand up, I have an idea and then I try it in an open mic. And honestly, most of the time, if it works the first time, it's a worked out bit and I might add more later, but like that works. And if it doesn't work like 3 times, I usually don't go back to it. And I don't even know, I usually don't try it 3 times. Maybe when I was younger and going to more open mics, but if I go to an open mic, if something doesn't work, I'm like, okay, that's not really gonna.
You're like, yeah, one and done.
Yeah, but this year
it's either gonna work or it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Some people aren't like that. They like really fix jokes and make like everything eventually make sense, and then it's a really good joke. But I like have this idea or a character or something that happened to me, and then I act it out, and it's like fun. But I'm trying to be more conscious about like writing every day, and I have like organized my jokes in 2 months. Like 2 months ago, I just downloaded a notes app, and was like October jokes, November jokes.
Oh wow! So like you're keeping track of like when you write them or?
Yeah, I'm like, or just the
Or-
premises, and then
Oh, okay.
I could go back and be like, what did I write in November anyways? Like, I know I didn't go to enough open mics. Like, now that I'm going to one, let's like pick the best premises that I have so I can really go there with intention and try to walk away with one new joke that I can put into my set. And I'm trying to be on it because I want to get better and I want to get better faster rather than like doing the same 10 minutes. It's like really important to me to be putting like new stuff and rotating so that hopefully I can have like an hour someday, but I'm not there yet.
Where are you?
I
No, I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm like, wait, where are you?
Like, I don't like to be like, I have this. If I don't, I'd say I have fun doing 20 minutes. I can do 30. I have done 45 and not all of it was great.
I can appreciate that. I think more comics, we need to be honest with ourselves, but also if you're not, it's like one of them things, because I just had a conversation with somebody about this, how, you know, there's comics that'll call themselves headliners even though they don't have the headlining material. Like they're not a headliner,
Right.
but they're calling themselves a headliner and they're trying to get themselves booked as a headliner.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, but you're not going to become a headliner if you don't take that step and try to get to be a headliner and go do bad shows, headlining sets to work that material out. So it's like, it's weird on the scale of how that, you know.
I totally agree with that. You know, a club probably won't ask you to headline if they don't even know who you are, if you're not reaching out. So it's like, that's not, they're probably not like super high pressure situations like that. But I'm really grateful for the people that ask me to do 30. I've had some of the most fun sets I've ever had. Like I did a show in Greeley at the Moxie and I did 30 and headlined on a festival, and it was just a small local one, but I like really, that was a big moment for me. And not every 30 I've done after that has been the best time, but it's like, I'm so grateful for those people for believing in me, and I get to practice that. And you like push yourself and you really make yourself think like, these are all my jokes and this is the order they should maybe go in, and this is where you should give yourself space to play with the crowd if that's what you're into. but yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Do you, when you're thinking about a longer set like that, do you write out a set list?
Yeah.
Or do you just kind of, or do you do it in your head?
I think it's really cool when people are like, oh, I just go and I can think about all my jokes and I just do it. But I take out my notebook. I have a list of like all my jokes. And I try to keep it updated, but I look at everything and then I write out the jokes. Usually my jokes are about a minute a piece. So like if it's 30, I'll have about 30 jokes like written down. And then I like think about the organization. If I want to change the order, then I think about it. Because if I change like one joke and put it like later in the set where I usually do it earlier, I'm going to fuck it up and do it earlier if I don't think about it ahead of time.
Oh yeah. Because you go into autopilot sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easy to, yep.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that. Where you like have a certain flow, and then if it, I don't know how it is for you, but sometimes for me, I'll want to change something up, and then I will, and it'll just mess up my entire, like I'll feel way off because I'm like, that just wasn't the flow I'm used to.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I feel crazy because I'm like writing out the set list and then I like recite it to myself, and like I'll do it like 3 hours before a show to kind of think about it, and then later and I'll like see if I remember it, and then I don't remember it, and I'm like, fuck, I have to like recite my New York, Vegas, Mexico. Like I'm like saying it in my head, and I feel like a child preparing for a test, but that's just how I get through it.
I mean, that's preparation. I think it's important to be prepared. It's, you like you said, there are comics who can just like go up there, not even prepare and do fine.
Yeah.
But I think the comics who do that, there's only a few of them that are putting in their best effort and best sets,
Or they're like a prodigy, and they've always been so funny, and they can walk
Yep.
on a stage and just like crush it.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
What they say comes out of their mouth. Like, they are funny. They are the embodiment of what funny is.
Yeah, but again, those are far and few between. You know, there's if everybody could do that, if everybody was a prodigy, there wouldn't be a prodigy.
Yeah, we wouldn't look up to people in this society and be like, "You're special. We want to watch you and give you our money."
Oh, that's funny. Going into talking about the bad sets, you keep talking about how you're continually trying to improve and get better because you want to be the best that you can, which is great. How do you look at your sets? Like, how do you analyze them? So, you see kind of what happened and then try to figure out what happened so that you don't do that again or that doesn't happen again.
I'm not great at this, but if something happens that I didn't like my reaction to something, I will remember that. Like, if I'm trying so hard to not say, "Oh, you guys didn't like that," or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to say that anymore. I think sure, it can be used as a tool.
Yeah.
To be like, not into the feet material tonight. I don't have any feet material, but I think it could get a laugh, but with me, I'm trying, because I didn't realize it until, people were saying like they were having a good time or whatever. Obviously, if there's no laughs, they're probably not having a good time, or they're like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
But I will have, pretty okay sets, and then I think saying something like that can ruin it, like a few jokes in, or if it's a longer set, like halfway through your set, they're like, oh my God, like, does she think we're not enjoying this? And then it makes them feel weird, and they're the ones going out trying to have a good time, like not be pressured to perform. So it's like something like that, I'll take note, and I'm like not doing that anymore. I'm not making the audience feel weird. So I'll like remember that. But in terms of jokes, I record all of my sets now, but I don't listen back to them.
Same.
Yeah.
I go one step further, and if I
Yeah.
can, I videotape everything and don't do anything with it. Like, I have like a 5 terabyte hard drive that's I don't know, like 3/4 full of just video from the last like 5 years.
Yeah.
I never go look at it. I just take it from my camera and put it on there.
Yeah. But that's another step. Like, I'm trying to organize my jokes and put effort into that. I'm gonna push myself to listen to my sets to be the best that I can, because I think like what from what I understand, I think people even can think of tags from listening to their set, because it's like you're watching their special, or you're listening to an album, and that inspires you to write a joke sometimes.
Yep.
I think we can be inspired to write by listening to our own sets and being like, oh my God, I should like put this there. Or like I can add that on the end, because you're like thinking about it in real time with yourself, which is so odd. But
right, when you say it out loud, it's like, wow, that. But you're not wrong on that. That is a good point. It's like, why not? It's easier said than done to be, to go, how about I watch this as I'm watching somebody else? Because then, puts you in that, oh, I'm going to be creative and get into that analytical mode.
Yeah.
But when it's watching yourself, it's just so hard to do. Because at least for me, I'm just like, I don't want to listen to myself. My voice is annoying.
Yeah.
It annoys me.
It's like, God, I hate it when I do that thing. Which, if you hate that, and it causes the audience to not laugh, then you should stop doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sometimes you can overanalyze things. And I feel like I look insane when I'm on that stage. Like, I don't think I always look composed, like somebody who's standing there, so calm and like telling their jokes. I think a part of my energy is like looking a little crazy. And I don't want to take that. I don't want to take that out. I don't think that I should, because if I'm getting laughs when I'm doing those things, I shouldn't change that. But yeah, you can look back and be like, oh, I keep like touching my nose, or
Yep.
I keep
Finding those little
adjusting my
ticks.
pants. Yeah, you could take those out
Mhm.
and like be intentional and conscious of those decisions.
Yep. No, that's a good point. And I just want to say that was a great observation too about, doing the whole, I guess you didn't like that, and changing that energy of the room as far as like putting it on the audience. Cause that, sometimes, when you're on stage, you can't really tell just because they're not laughing out loud doesn't mean they're not necessarily enjoying it. You just, you might not be able to see. They might be sitting in the audience smiling, and some people aren't, audible laughers.
And smiling is my favorite reaction to a joke. I love it now. Just like,
I was like, what?
no,
Really?
no. I'm like, stop fucking smiling and laugh.
Laugh already. Break that smile.
But I think like where like that's most important is you'll be in the middle of a joke and you're not even waiting for them to get to the final punchline. And yeah, you might have like 3 things where you want them to laugh, but if they're not, maybe if they don't laugh at the end of the joke and you're like, fuck, that was the end of the joke, but
that was your cue.
yeah, but if you're saying it like in the middle when you have your, you have some tags, but they're not laughing. I'm trying not to abandon hope. I'm like, let's not make this weird yet. Let's like, and then they, they'll laugh at the part where they're supposed to laugh, and you're not making them feel weird in the middle of the joke, and you're also not ruining your final punchline. And yeah, there's just those moments where you're
absolutely.
like, wow.
It's funny because as you were saying that, I don't know why this popped in my head, but I thought it would be funny if that was like a bit that somebody did where like at the end of the joke, they're like, okay, that's your cue. And then every time they end a joke, they end it with that's your cue.
That's your cue. I mean, there's
That
so
would be
many
funny to
things
watch,
that
though.
comedians say at the end of jokes when they don't work. There's like, that's my best joke. That's my funniest joke,
Well, yeah. And number
so many
one,
things we do.
Number one is, well, that was a new joke.
Yeah, yes.
Even though it was written 10 years ago.
You're like, just give me one laugh. I'm
That was a
sweating
new
up
joke.
here. Am I dreaming? Yeah. So, some shows feel that way. You're
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
This has been a Tape Deck Media production. Thank you for listening.